Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my friend's boyfriend's party after she demanded to approve my outfit? Original post. My 29 female friend Kate, 28, has a boyfriend Jamie, 29, whom she has been with for nearly 3 years. We met Jamie on a night out, and I would say that although he's Kate's boyfriend, I consider him a friend. We share an interest in a particular sport that we text about sometimes, and if I have a spare hospitality ticket to one of the sporting fixtures, I will sometimes invite Jamie to go. Jamie's 30th is coming up, and Jamie and Kate planned on a big party, and I peripherally helped out with the logistics when asked. A few days ago, Kate texted me. She asked me if I wouldn't mind toning down my look for the party, and if I could send her a picture of what I was planning to wear. I asked her what this meant, and after asking several times if she really had to say it, she asked if I could dress verbatim, basically what I would consider frumpy, because she really didn't want to be outshone at her own boyfriend's birthday party. When I didn't reply right away, she went on to say that she wanted Jamie's full attention that night, which she wouldn't get if I showed up dressed properly. I was a bit annoyed by what she was implying, so I said if I was going to be so much of a concern for her, I'd rather just politely decline the invitation. Kate freaked out, saying I was being immature by not coming just because I couldn't steal the spotlight. I said it wasn't about that. It was about her making me responsible for whether or not I draw her boyfriend's attention, which is something I've never tried to do nor done as far as I'm aware. She then said it was really important to Jamie that she stand out because his friends and colleagues would be there. I just told her that again, if she was so worried that I was going to be distracting everyone, I'd rather not come than feel humiliated from now until the event. I said I would send her Jamie's gift and she could tell him why I wasn't coming. I guess she didn't tell him the reason because Jamie messaged me saying he knows I'm booked the night of the party, but he'd really like it if I could be there, and asked if I could reorganize so I could come. I hadn't replied, but I got a message from Kate saying she knows Jamie is trying to get me to come, and please could I just put my pride aside and come to the party. I asked if she was going to ditch the outfit policy, but she said no, so I said I would not be coming. She didn't reply, but I've since received a couple of texts from mutual friends saying that while her request is ridiculous, Kate is aware of that. She's just desperate to be seen a certain way, and even if it is pathetic, I would probably feel the same way in her shoes. Other friends I've told who don't know Kate say I should not bow down to the pressure and that she's nuts for even asking. And I don't disagree, but I also feel bad skipping the party when it's Jamie's birthday, and he asked specifically that I come. So should I be going? Now for the advice before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Tell Jamie the truth. Just say sorry, but when the choices are giving up my bodily autonomy or giving up the party, the choice is simple. She'd totally be within her rights to do that, but if she went for actually no, girlfriend, had asked me not to come if I don't let her pre-approve my outfit, and I just really feel weird about that. Or even girlfriend and I had a disagreement and she asked me to not come. I'll fill you in later on. Might be more likely to get a good outcome. I like the second option. It puts the onus on the insecure friend and she can come clean about the disagreement or dig a deeper hole. She clearly didn't give the whole story when telling the boyfriend why OP wasn't coming, so I think it's a nice subtle way to tell him there's more to the story without fully going scorched earth and sending screenshots of the text. I think it's a much more diplomatic and a classy way to handle it, at least. It definitely could be more diplomatic, but this is assuming OP's friend acts rationally. If she doesn't, she's given up on the opportunity to have any control over the narrative without first having to convince their mutual friends that Kate lied. Not saying Kate would do that, but admittedly, based on her request of OP, I'd be concerned that she would. No matter what, OP will lose the girlfriend. I mean, it's over now. She could be diplomatic and maybe save friendship with the boyfriend, but say goodbye to the insecure girlfriend. Good riddance, though. What a nutty thing to say to someone. Now for the update. Update. First of all, thank you to everyone for the advice. Most responses were not what I was expecting and really gave me a lot to think about. As surprised as I was that so many people said to tell Jamie, I did realize it was the right thing to do. So I texted him and told him that Kate was insisting I dressed a certain way. Jamie called and explained. A couple of months ago, Jamie and Kate were out with a few friends. These same friends that I mentioned in my comments were not fond of Kate. And everyone had a lot to drink. They were talking about how they met their significant others, and the story of Jamie and Kate meeting came up. Apparently, during the storytelling, Kate asked Jamie why he had decided to hit on her rather than me. And one of his jokes was that it was because he knew he didn't have a shot with the hot one, me. Kate asked if this was true, and Jamie, having had way too much to drink, explained in a way that made it sound kind of true. He said he did notice me that night and thought I was attractive just seeing me. He said he never would have approached me because he knew he never would have had a chance with someone like me, so in that way, his friend was right. He said that speaking to Kate was the absolute best outcome because he loves her and plans on spending the rest of his life with her. But even knowing this, Kate has taken this extremely hard, and even though she says she is over it, he's noticed changes in her behavior that seem to be related to that. He also admitted that he's been planning to propose to Kate at the party, and that is why he wanted me to be there. But after hearing this on top of the way that she has been handling the situation previously, he won't be doing that anymore. After speaking to Jamie, I called Kate. She admitted that she had tied a lot of her self-worth in the fact that she'd finally been picked over me. Now it felt like that wasn't true. She apologized for trying to solve her insecurities through me, but also said she wasn't sure she would be able to have me in her life as much as I had been with the way that she's been feeling. As hurt as I was, I said I understood. She said that she still wanted me to come to the party since I'd helped organize it, and she obviously dropped the absurd dress code, so I will be going to the party. I trust that Kate will communicate her boundaries to Jamie, but I don't plan on inviting him to any more events for the foreseeable future. I'm really sad that I've probably lost a longtime friend over the drunken awkwardness of other people, but I also get that Kate can't help how she feels, and frankly, it's for the best not to be in a secret competition. So yeah, I'm hurt, but I'm going to the party. Not a satisfying update, but an honest one. Update. Going through these comments has actually brought up a couple of memories that have, in hindsight, made me a bit uncomfortable, and I actually don't think I will end up going to this party. As much as the mutual friends will have questions and I don't know how much of the truth I will end up telling, I feel too weird right now to continue to be involved in this situation. Story 2. Update. Am I the a-hole for not explicitly telling my grandpa I'm married to another woman? Original post. My wife and I are both women in our late 20s. We've been together for 4 years and got married this summer after getting engaged in the spring. Due to restrictions and personal preference, we did a courthouse wedding with each of our sisters as our maids of honor. It was a relatively simple affair, and my wife and I are pleased with how low-key it was. Before we got married, I was not out to my extended family members. I was very close with my grandma and was afraid about how she would react. Sadly, she passed away shortly before our wedding, so she never got to know that my wife was more than a friend. I'm not very close to my grandpa, but I do try to call him once a week to chit-chat. He's very reserved and soft-spoken, so our convos are typically 5 minutes of fluff about work and the weather. I had introduced my wife to my grandparents. They met her a few times before Grandma passed away. They only knew her as my roommate and friend, so I wasn't out at the time. But I would tell my grandma about fun things we did together, and honestly, I think she might have known that we were a couple. In retrospect, Grandpa probably didn't pick up on it because I'm not nearly as close to him as I was with her. So when we visited, he would say hi and chat with us for a little bit before going into his workshop while we stayed with my grandma in the house. After the wedding, I decided I couldn't hide who I was any longer and posted our wedding pics to social media, saying that we had gotten married and I was happy to spend the rest of my life with a woman I loved. Many of my extended family reached out to congratulate us, and the overall response was very positive. For Christmas, we sent out Christmas cards to all of our relatives with their engagement and wedding. Fast forward to last week, my parents, siblings, wife, and I stopped by to visit my grandpa and exchange presents with masks on. When we got to his house, I said, "Grandpa, you remember wife's name?" And he said hi and asked about her parents, and that was that. Everyone was sitting in a circle around the living room, was sitting next to my wife on the couch, with my arm on the back of the couch around her, while we went around and everyone opened presents. I got a cookbook that my grandma had picked out for me before she passed, and I started to tear up, and my wife held my hand for a while to comfort me. The next day, my mom reached out saying that my grandpa didn't know that my wife and I were together until he saw me hanging all over my wife. I'm sure these are my mom's words. I told her that I genuinely thought he knew, and that if someone hadn't talked to him about it after we posted it on social media, he would have realized from the Christmas cards, which featured a close-up of the rings. He had asked my mom about it after the party, and she had to tell him. She says it should have been from me. My mom told me it was my responsibility to tell him, and that he shouldn't have found out that way. Am I the a-hole for not specifically telling my grandpa I'm married to a woman? My mom said it isn't the end of the world, but I can tell she's kind of upset. My wife said that she didn't think any PDA we did have was not over the top and nothing my siblings wouldn't do with their significant others who weren't present. And a friend said that it's not on me to make sure everyone knows about my marriage. And now for the advice before reading the update. I think it's a bit weird that you have a weekly call with your granddad and didn't tell him you were married. Regardless of the gender of your partner, it must have been weird and uncomfortable for him to just not be told at all that you're married. And then your mom has to tell him, yes, she's married, and she didn't think to tell you? A slight yes, you're the a-hole. You don't owe anyone personal information, but you've maintained a relationship with a family member and essentially told everyone a big piece of news except for him. Like if you called him weekly and then turned up with a 6-month-old baby, having never even mentioned the pregnancy or birth to him, and your mom has to confirm it's your baby? Like you being engaged and then getting married, these are pretty big life events. Yes, you can say that you don't have to tell anyone about your baby, but it's still weird to exclude this information from one person. I think you hit the nail on the head. I should have told him. If my grandma was still with us, I definitely would have told her. My grandpa and I never really had a close relationship, and the main reason I call him is because I know he misses her, and I wanted to help distract him even a little bit. I think a part of me just didn't want to have that tough conversation. I was hoping the Christmas card got the point across, but knowing him, he might have just glanced at it and then set it aside. Hold up. How did you post pictures of your wedding and sending out Christmas cards with wedding and engagement details and a close-up of rings not count towards telling your grandfather you got married to a woman? You did inform him. Did he throw the information away without reading it? That's on him, not on you. I actually don't know that it's a requirement to personally sit down every extended family member and look them deep in the eyes and say, "I'm gay," in order to tell family members that you're openly gay. Depending on the size of your family and where they live, that's like a month of driving and personal visits, not the a-hole. I'm going to be a little bit different here and say mild, yes, you are the a-hole. It's not that you didn't tell your grandfather you were married to a woman, it's that you didn't tell your grandfather you were married at all. I totally get your fear about how people would react. There are two separate issues here. The first is legit, being afraid of people's homophobia. But this isn't what your mom is complaining about. She's complaining about you not telling your grandfather personally and letting her be the one to tell, but not asking her directly instead of passive-aggressively setting up a situation in which she'd have to tell him and leaving her with it. A general Facebook announcement is most certainly not the same thing as picking up the phone and telling your loved one you're engaged and are married. You say you talk to your grandfather once a week. It would have been quite natural for you to tell him then. You didn't because you were afraid of his reaction, I get that. However, it's not likely your grandfather would have noticed something announced on social media, and I have to wonder why you thought he did. It's not cool that you then went to a family gathering and behaved as a married couple without telling your grandfather that you were married. What you should have done, if you were afraid of telling him again, understandably, was ask your mother to tell him for you or to tell him together with your mother. She would then have given consent. As it is, you just left her with the job without asking her. Anyway, congratulations on your marriage, and hopefully you'll experience only love and support from now on, and hold your head up high. Now for the update. I just want to thank everyone who commented. I read through them all, and it really helped me to process the situation. I spoke with my mom a few hours the night after I posted, and she apologized for her comment about my wife and I hanging all over each other. I apologized for putting her in the situation she was in, and that I genuinely thought that he had known. She basically said that it was okay, he knows now, and not to worry. She had talked to him and told him that we were together but didn't tell him we were married, which she said needed to come from me. I agreed. I said I was going to give him some time to process and reflect on things, and that I didn't want to reach out too soon before he was ready. I waited a week to talk to him. In that time, an aunt of mine said she spoke with him. They spoke for a while, and his general sentiment was that he was worried that we would lead happy lives together, i.e., could we find a home? Could we have kids? Would we be able to keep our jobs? She said that they had a really good talk and that she was able to reassure him on his worries. She told me that I should talk to him and give him a chance to see how happy we are. This weekend, I went to visit him. My aunt and my mom came too. After we chatted for a while, I told my grandpa that I had some news. I told him that my wife and I had actually gotten married this summer. I made it clear that it was a very small ceremony and that our parents couldn't even attend. And that because that we were planning on having a big wedding celebration in a year or two after COVID is over so all of our family and friends could celebrate. I explained that I was just too nervous to tell him and that I was worried what he would think. He said, "Well, I'm 85. My opinion doesn't matter." We talked a little bit more. I made sure to mention that we were very happy and that our jobs knew and our neighbors knew when we bought our house. I also mentioned that my wife's parents went to the same college my parents and all of my mom's siblings went to, and he thought that was pretty cool. I told him that I didn't have a chance to tell Grandma before she passed, and that I really miss her and hoped she could see how happy we were together. We all had a little cry and talked about how much we miss her. The next morning, a different aunt called me and said that when she went and visited Grandpa, he was all excited. "Did you hear we're going to have a big party after COVID? OP is having a wedding celebration." She and I had a good talk, and it sounds like Grandpa is doing well with the news and that everything worked out okay. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for saying I won't kid swap over our Christmas holiday? I, 32 female, have a brother Charles, 38 male, who has a girlfriend, Claire, 35 female. Claire has a daughter, Ruby, 8 female, who has additional needs. This will be relevant. And I have a daughter, B, age 4. We are all, along with mine and Charles' parents, going to be on a family holiday over Christmas. Claire was originally not bringing Ruby, as she was meant to be staying with her father, but her dad is a flake and canceled, so Claire is now bringing her. For some context, Claire loves my daughter, which is great. She will volunteer to babysit her. I don't need babysitting as I'm a stay-at-home mother and my mother is nearby for emergencies. Unprompted, and whenever we see her at events, she always wants to play with B. B loves her, and it's nice to see, but it's noticeable how she will spend a whole afternoon fussing over B, even when me and my husband are perfectly capable of looking after her. But again, she's great with B, so we don't mind. A couple of days ago, Claire and I were texting about what to pack for the trip as I was lending her some clothes. During this, I sent her a picture of what I was packing for B to give her some idea of what Ruby would need. And Claire said that she was really looking forward to seeing B. She then suggested for a couple of days during the holiday that we do a kids swap, where we babysit each other's kids for the day. I was immediately not keen on this idea, as I've only met Ruby twice and I know nothing about her needs or how to properly look after her. Also, I came on a holiday to spend time with my child, not farm her out to other people. I skirted around the issue saying that we could definitely do things together, but Claire kept pushing me to agree. She wanted her and Charles to take B for a day to go ice skating. This back and forth went on for a while before I finally said, no, I'm not letting you borrow my child. You already have one. Claire said I was being unfair and that she deserves a break to have an enjoyable holiday too. She then said that she didn't want to borrow my clothes anymore and stopped texting me. Charles is now saying she's very hurt that I won't let her take B out and that Claire adores her. I said that's not the point. I'm not comfortable caring for Ruby on my own, and frankly, I find it a bit odd that Claire's idea of a break from parenting involves babysitting. Charles says I massively overdramatized everything and that babysitting Ruby for a few hours doesn't need a degree and I should just help Claire out. Now I'm wondering if he's right. Am I the a-hole? And now for the advice. Not the a-hole. The problem is not only that Claire wants you to borrow B for a while, the problem is that she wants you to take care of her child with special needs. A child who you don't know, and Ruby doesn't know you, and could be uncomfortable around people she doesn't know well, and don't know how to care for her. Now, without wanting to sound too cynical, do you get the impression that Claire somehow resents Ruby in any way, and would like to have a daughter like B instead? Her attitude around your child is strange at best, and it looks like that Claire has something to unpack with a professional therapist. Frankly, it'd be quite uncomfortable too, leaving my daughter with a woman who seems slightly obsessed with her. I wouldn't say that she's obsessed with B. Actually, she really just loves kids. Like whenever she sees one out, she always just melts. But I do think she sees B and wishes she could experience similar things and milestones with Ruby, and I really can't judge her for that. I only know 1% of what she goes through on a daily basis, and it sounds unimaginably hard. So it's not like I blame her in any way. I'm fine with doing things together, and even day to day, I'll invite her out with me to do things when I'm doing things with B. It's nice that she cares, and is there to be a mom friend? I just don't think switching kids is a good idea when I'm not equipped to deal with Ruby's needs. Life has been hard on Claire for sure, and I bet she's worn out and exhausted, especially during a busy time with children like Christmas. But she needs to find a professional help to learn mechanisms to help her cope. Leaving Ruby with you for a few days is not a long-term solution for her. The timeline of the swap keeps shrinking the further into the post we get, so I'm not sure if the initial few days, the taking her for a day to ice skate, or the few hours at the end is the real timeline. If it's for a few hours, then I don't think this is really a big deal at all. People regularly do activities with aunts and uncles on the holidays. If it's for a few days, then that's much more weird. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.